We're live. Welcome on in. The Draft Show with Joe Giglio. We are going to do this all these nights leading up to the NFL Draft, which amazingly is next Thursday night. So welcome on in. Going to do this every couple nights and get ready for the draft and give my takes on the draft and everything going on. I want this to be interactive. I'm pulling the video up right now. Interactive here. I comment. I give my takes. I give my opinions on the latest draft rumors with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I need you guys to respond, to comment, to ask questions, whatever. Tell me I look ridiculous. Anything you want to say, I'm excited to hear it and talk to you guys over the next half hour or so as we get ready for the NFL Draft. And really, the number 12 pick with the Philadelphia Eagles, which is, right now, their pick. How long is that going to be their pick? I don't know the answer to that. So today, there were some rumors there that, look, the Philadelphia Eagles, they could trade back up. We talked about that last week. They could stay at number 12 and pick the best player on the board, whatever that is for them. Or the Eagles could trade down. And of all these scenarios here, that would be the one that I know would upset the most people. The Eagles trading back down, right? They have the number 6 pick, and they go to 12. Could they trade down again here in the 2021 NFL Draft? Let me tell you, as I look at the draft and what it's going to be and where we're at with the Eagles, I would have no problem trading down. Would you? Would that bother you if the Eagles trade down again? So the way I see it is there's a bunch of different ways they could go here. I said last week I don't want wide receiver. Yeah, that's not my preferred pick in the first round. I think teams should need to build through the trenches. The Eagles have done a good job with that over the years of building through the trenches. And I don't want to spend another premium pick, another first or second round pick, or especially first, on a wide receiver. So if we get to number 12, and let's say Surtain's off the board, the corner from Alabama, Horn's off the board, the corner from South Carolina. If both those things are there, right? They're both off the board. I would have no problem at all, and especially, and let's say Slater, the offensive lineman Northwestern, off the board. Kwity Paye, defensive end Michigan. If all those players are off the board, and the only things there are the wide receivers, I would have no problem at all trading back down some spots and moving to a point where you get more assets and you kind of recalibrate and see where the draft is going at, let's say, 13, 14, 15, 16. Like, I don't want to trade down to the 20s. I'm not looking to move down and go from number 6 all the way to 24. But let's pretend for a second the Chicago Bears at 20, or let's say that the New England Patriots, I think at 15, right? They're sitting there in the kind of that middle ground, right? That's not the end of the first round, but it's also not as high as the Eagles are at 12. And maybe one of those quarterbacks falls, right? Maybe Mac Jones from Alabama falls, and the Patriots like him. They think they're next Tom Brady or whatever, or the Bears like him. If the Eagles could move down a few spots, or let's say the Cardinals really want Smith out of Alabama or Waddle, if you can move down a few more spots and get some more picks, like the way I look at draft picks is identify your guy. Like, figure out who your guy is. And then if their guy's not there anymore, trade down, and who's the next guy on your board that fits more? Like Kwity Paye. I think Kwity Paye, the defensive end out of Michigan, would be a good pick for the Eagles. I don't know if anyone else would take him before the Eagles would at 12. We'll see. And if he's there at 12, you could just gobble him up. Or you could say, can we play this board where the Eagles move down a few spots, move to 15, and he's still there? Like, that's where the intel that Howie Roseman has to have. And this has nothing to do with being a good drafter or not. It's understanding the league needs, draft boards of other teams. Like, when Sam Hinkie was with the Sixers, right? He knew that the Magic wanted Elfrid Payton, and he was able to basically steal an extra first-round pick from them by taking that player and then swapping. Like, so sometimes you know what the other teams around the league want, and you can make a deal. So I would have no problem if the Eagles traded down again. I know it would be like, oh my goodness gracious, they had 6, they moved down. But this is how good teams operate. And smart teams can operate by moving around the board and still getting the player they want. I don't want to force a pick at 12 because, the 3 or 4 guys that we liked went before 12, and now we're like, who are we going to do? Who are we take? Right, that's how Marcus Smith arrived here, because the Eagles weren't prepared for that situation. They weren't prepared for the guy they wanted to go flying down the board, right, or to go off the board, right, all the guys they wanted. So they almost got caught with their pants down and said, I guess we're going to take Marcus Smith now. Don't do that. Like, if the guy that you want is not there, trade down. All right, so listen, comments, questions. I'm looking at the Facebook Live here. Alex this is a great comment here. Alex Acevedo, you didn't acknowledge my acknowledgement. Of course, that's a Gabe Kapler reference. Kapler and his San Francisco Giants are back in Philadelphia tonight. Andrew said, Smith and Waddle are legit. Don't overthink it. So, listen, I want this to be interactive. You ask questions, comments, and I'll go there. It's almost like we're doing a show on the air, on the radio, but your comments are the calls to the show. So I got a couple other things I want to get into rest of this draft. But let's go to the phone lines here to per se. Joey said, "Don't overthink it. Waddle or Smith, both Alabama wideouts." I have no doubt that Smith and Waddle are going to be good players in the NFL. Different players. I think Smith's going to be more of a possession guy, over the middle guy. Almost a best case scenario possible would be a Marvin Harrison type of guy. I don't think he's going to be that good, but that's kind of the Antonio Brown type, like that kind of possession, volume catch wide receiver. Waddle's going to be more of a Tyreek Hill. I have no problem with either of those players, and I will not be mad on draft night if the Eagles get a star receiver out of Alabama. I just don't like allocating this kind of resource to another wide receiver. And I think wide receiver is such a strong position now. It's almost becoming like running back used to be, where there's so many guys. Unless the guy's super special, like we're talking about Julio Jones, we're talking about Calvin Johnson, like one of those unicorn type of wide receivers. I don't want to take one with a top half of the first round pick. Just get a guy in the second or third round, because they put up crazy production. Think about the last few years. And it's unfortunate the Eagles haven't got one of these guys, but like DK Metcalf, of course, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin. There are players every year after this, kind of range of the draft. We go late first round, second round, third round, that are putting up monster numbers. So if I can get a defensive lineman, or an offensive lineman, or a star corner in the first round, I'd rather do that. So I don't think it's overthinking it. I think it's just figuring out where the strengths of the draft are and saying, all right, I can get this position here. Can I get a defensive end as good as Kwity Paye in the second round? Maybe, maybe not. Can I get a corner as good as J.C. Horn or Surtain in the second round? Probably not. Can I get an offensive lineman as good as Rashawn Slater in the second or third round? Almost surely not. Can I get a wide receiver as good as Smith or Waddle in the second round? I think you can. That's my perspective on wide receiver. Bill said corner, wide receiver, second round is my choice. Thoughts? So corner in the first, wide receiver in the second. I love that. And J.C. Horn's my guy. Like, if you go on YouTube and you watch highlights of J.C. Horn covering receivers, J.C. Horn has the kind of skill set and the kind of game I think Philadelphia would love. He's a tough, physical corner. Like, he will pressure the line of scrimmage. He will knock you down. He will tackle, and he's all over the field. And the one thing about him, I do think he has to work on a little bit, is he gets penalties because he's kind of grabby, but I think we'd prefer that than a passive corner who's always playing off. Like, he's in wide receivers' faces. I think he'd play very well here. Kevin said J.C. Horn definitely the pick. Andrew said Horn is very good. I mean, like, once in a while you watch a player and you're like, man, that guy is my kind of guy. And J.C. Horn is that guy. Like, J.C. Horn is a really, really good corner. I think Surtain is going to be off the board. Like, I think Horn is the more attainable corner for the Eagles to go get. And if they can get him out of South Carolina, I am all in. All right, so I'm okay with trading down again. If they can't get the player they want at number 12, or if he goes off the board to number 8 or 9 or whatever, like, I would hope the Eagles have a list of 4 or 5 guys that they think are going to be there. And really, they should be, right? If 4 or 5 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 5 or 6 picks, that should leave about 7 or 8 players that they have to get one of those players. It's the simple math of being at number 12 where they are. And if, let's say they narrow it down to 5, they love 5 players. Well, the options are trade up for one of them, which there was rumors they could trade up for one of them to make sure you get them, or just sit there at 12 and see which one is left. And if worst case scenario plays out, they don't trade up, and none of their, let's say, pretend they have 5 guys earmarked, like Surtain, Horn, Slater, Paye, and maybe Waddle, right? Let's just pretend those are the guys. If they trade down or they stay at 12 and none of those 5 guys are there, I'm okay trading down. Don't force it. Move down to 15 or 16, collect an extra second round or third round pick. Boom. Now you have assets to work with. You still get a player that whatever the next guy you like is at 15. And I would use the picks they get back to move around the board all the rest of the draft. Okay, so they could be at 37 with their second round pick, take the extra third they just got, boom, move back into the first round and get another wide receiver. Like, that's the kind of stuff I would do if I was Howie. Play the board. Don't be forced into a pick at 12 just because that's their pick. I mean, wheeling and dealing is as much a part of the draft as actually drafting players, like putting yourself in the most advantageous situation. So I am all for the Eagles trading down. All right, so Brian said the Eagles are going to trade back into the top 10 and draft Mac Jones. I think he's got a crying emoji, probably a sad crying. I used the crying for laughing. I'd be surprised if they did that. I wanted to bring this up, and then I got a couple of thoughts on what they could do, some other parts of this draft. But A lot of talk out there about Jalen Hurts, and do the Eagles believe in Jalen Hurts? And I have a different take on this than maybe you've heard. So the feeling is, okay, the Eagles are stockpiling picks for next year because they don't really believe in Jalen Hurts, or they're not sure about Jalen Hurts. And the second thing is, what I just said, it's very, I think, fair and common to not know yet what you have in Jalen Hurts. How could they? They had 4 games. He was up and down. I think the ups were very high. New coaching staff. I don't think the Eagles should be completely 1,000% sold on Jalen Hurts, but I always say actions speak louder than words or rumors. Actions. And the actions over the last year say the Eagles do believe in Jalen Hurts. They drafted Jalen Hurts. They played Jalen Hurts over Carson Wentz when Wentz struggled. They traded away Carson Wentz. They didn't bring in any legitimate competition. Joe Flacco's not legitimate competition, that could actually be the quarterback of this team for a long period of time. And then this offseason, in a draft class that is considered historic, people think it could go 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks. You could have a 5th quarterback in the top 10. They traded out of the top 10 to commit to Jalen Hurts for this year. Like, if the Eagles weren't sold on Jalen Hurts, this is the draft, based on the strength of the draft and where the Eagles were, to draft another quarterback. Like, they could have easily done that. They could have traded up into the top 4 if they wanted. They could have used the picks they got for Carson Wentz and probably traded. I think if the Eagles truly wanted to, they could probably got from 6 to 3. Think about what happened with San Francisco. Like, if the Eagles wanted, they could be in position right now to take a quarterback. They chose not to. So I believe they believe in Jalen Hurts more than the perception is. I do not think they're gonna take Mac Jones here in this draft. David said, I like Hurts, but in my opinion, go get Russell Wilson next year. I don't care how old he is. I love Russell Wilson. So there are certain players. This is the way I view sports, the quarterback position, more than anything else. I will always go from good to great. I believe Jalen Hurts can be and will be a good quarterback for the Eagles. Russell Wilson is an all-time quarterback. Deshaun Watson, it's a very, very difficult and an uncomfortable situation. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. If he's eligible to play and he's cleared, he's a great player too. I would get either of those guys. The Watson thing is obviously different and unique. Wilson, I think he's going to age like Drew Brees. I think he's going to play forever. But that doesn't mean I don't like Jalen Hurts. Like, just because I would trade Jalen Hurts in for greatness doesn't mean I don't like Jalen Hurts. And look, guys, there is a chance. I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a chance that Jalen Hurts plays really well next season, or plays well enough to convince us he's the guy. And the Eagles have a bunch of cap room next year, and they have 3 first-round picks to put players around him. So the better Jalen Hurts plays, the better it is for the Eagles in every facet. He's a more attractive trade chip for Russell Wilson, if it comes to that, or he's the guy. And you have a cheap quarterback on a rookie deal. It's the biggest advantage in the NFL. Joey said he believes in Jalen Hurts. He's going to surprise people. I agree. I believe in Jalen Hurts too. I mean, the kid has been a winner everywhere he's been. I love his attitude. I love his demeanor. And I like his skill set. I think he is a better prospect than we're giving him and the Eagles credit for. Aniel, I hope I'm saying that right. What if the Eagles trade to the end of the first round, like 20 to 25? What do you like in that ballpark? Marshall Jr. looks like a stud. I assume you mean trading back in. I don't want to trade back, to 20, 25 from 12, but I think they could trade back into the first round. When think about all the ammunition they have, 20 picks over the next 2 years. Eagles aren't going to make 20 selections. Like, just think about it for a second. Think about how many young players teams actually have on their team, rookies on their team. It's never that many, right? It's never 10 to 12 rookies, unless you're a really bad team and you're kind of by design a rebuilding team. Now, this year, they could have 7 or 8 rookies. That wouldn't surprise me. But I don't think over the next 2 years we're going to have 20 new players just from the draft. They're going to package some of these picks. They're going to take a couple of them and trade up or whatever. So, yeah, I would love – the Eagles have the 37th pick. I would love to trade back into the bottom of the first round to get whatever position that they don't get at 12. So let's just pretend at 12 they get a corner. If there's a wide receiver there, because they passed on wide receiver at 12, and they could trade back into the bottom of the first round, the Bucs at 32, Chiefs at 31, Packers, Saints in that same area, I would do that. And the big advantage, of course, is you don't wait for that player to try to fall, right, beginning of the second round, because that gets tricky. That, like, when day 2 starts of the draft, everyone has a day to kind of recalibrate their draft board. Someone could trade up to 32 or trade up to 33 or 34 and get that player you want. So if the Eagles really like a player, go up and get him. Go up and get him, make sure you get him. And the other part is, when you have the 5th year option on the contract, like first-round picks come with a 5th year option. So you basically get the player for a full extra year before you have to give him a second contract if it works out and he's good. There's an advantage there. There's an advantage there of having an extra first pick. I would love to do it. Todd said, it'll be interesting to see who actually makes the picks for the Eagles this year, Howie, Jeffrey, or somebody else. Yeah, I hope it's not Jeffrey. It's so troubling to me that Jeff Lurie is seemingly so involved. The stories that he might have been the one who made the Arcega-Whiteside pick. Like, goodness gracious. Jeff Lurie, I was going to say, like, he knows as much about football as you and I, maybe less. I mean, I don't care. He's owned the Eagles for 2 decades or more, almost 3 decades now. Like, he's not he's a movie producer, right? He's an owner. He's not, football isn't what his thing. He's not a front office guy. So, yeah, I mean, he could be in the room. He could have his moment and hang out with everybody. Like, he's in the draft room. I hope he's not making picks. Does that mean I hope it's Howie Roseman? Well, I'd rather Howie than Jeffrey. And hopefully it's a collaboration between the scouts and the new coaching staff to get them what they need to put the best team together. Michael said, let's say if Smith and Horn are on the board at 12, who would you go with? So Smith, I would go Horn. I mean, Smith from Alabama, Horn from South Carolina. I love J.C. Horn. I think you get a receiver in the second round. Steven said, I refuse to listen to this clown. Well, thank you for watching, Steven. I appreciate that. Listen, any comment, any interaction you guys give, and I appreciate everyone watching tonight. It's kind of cool. Like, so we have, right now the Phillies pregame show is on the air with the Phillies game coming up. I just did leading off before the game, and it's so cool that I could jump on here and we could talk draft. Like, it's like doing a show right here on Facebook. And listen, if you guys just hopped on, you just follow the page. I do the show on WIP every night from 6 to 10, so give a listen whenever. Love talking Eagles. And, of course, the draft coming up in a little over a week. Let me hit this, and I'll go back to the comments here. Zach Ertz, still here, still on the Philadelphia Eagles. This probably comes to a head on draft night. I've seen some rumors and some thoughts that, hey, maybe the Eagles could trade Zach Ertz to move up in the draft. Right there at 37, maybe they package Zach Ertz and the 37th pick, move up to somewhere in the bottom of the first round. I'm in. But if they can't do that, you know, when Kyle Pitts was in the picture, the tight end out of Archbishop Wood, went to Florida. I think he's going to be the best non-quarterback in this draft. He's an incredible football player. Unicorn. I wish he was coming to the Eagles. But when they moved down to 12, the dream of Kyle Pitts probably went out the window. There's a chance they could trade back up a little bit and get him. But the idea of Kyle Pitts coming to the Eagles is probably gone. So when that was out the window, my thoughts on the Zach Ertz thing changed. I'd be perfectly fine keeping Zach Ertz for next year. He's under contract. He's an all-time great Eagle. Nick Sirianni's offense, the Frank Reich offense in Indianapolis, used 2 and 3 tight end sets often. And you have a young quarterback who you want to give the best chance possible to succeed. Why trade away Zach Ertz? Like, why am I giving Zach Ertz away for pennies on the dollar? Because he's upset? Because he wants more money? Like, it's a big boy league. Like, Zach's going to have to deal with it. And Zach's coming off a bad year. So I think it actually could behoove Zach Ertz to kind of put his big boy pants on, come back here, and have a big year, and then he can go into free agency and make the money he thinks he's deserving of. But I'm not giving away Zach Ertz for nothing. I'm not just saying, oh, the Chargers will give me a 5th-round pick on the end of day 3 or the middle of day 3. No thanks. I'll keep Zach Ertz, and I'll play him as my second tight end. Would you be okay bringing Zach Ertz back? Because I don't want to just trade him away. You know, if they get something good back and they could use him to help this team, okay. But I'm not just trading away Zach Ertz just because he's upset. Like, he's got to deal with it. You know, the Eagles offered him a contract last summer. He turned it down. He's the one that said no to the contract. Otherwise, he'd be paid already. And then he went out there last year and unfortunately got hurt and did not play very well. So he's not getting a raise off of last year from anybody. And certainly the Eagles were right in that. You know, the Eagles have been wrong about a lot of things, but I would say not trading away or not paying Zach Ertz what he wanted was the right decision. Samuel Jr., Asante Samuel Jr. going to be available in the second round, Joe said. He could be. I've seen mocks with him late first round, early second round. So that's the opposite end of the equation, right? If they go wide receiver or offensive line or defensive line in the first round and corner is still a big need, which is a gigantic need for this team. Really, I'm worried about corner, especially in this division now. Galladay on the Giants. We know the Cowboys have Cooper and Gallup and I mean, the kid last year, CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. They've got a lot. So, and Washington has McLaurin. They signed Curtis Samuel. They've got a good amount down there. So the Eagles need something else at corner. If they don't get corner early, Asante Samuel Jr. would be a fun pick and such a cool lineage pick in the second round. I'm in on that. David said, I love Zach, but honestly, I think that he gets paid what he should be. He's on the decline. David, you're right. Zach, the party here that was wrong in all this was Zach Ertz. I mean, he was the one that turned down an offer. The Eagles offered him a pretty decent amount of money last summer. He said, no, I want to be one of the highest paid tight ends in the NFL. He got upset at Howie Roseman, got upset at the Eagles, kind of pouted about it. And, it could go one of two ways when that happens. You could either go out there and prove it and show everyone you are that guy and basically force the team's hand, or you could struggle. And Zach struggled last year. He just wasn't very productive. Part of it was the quarterback play. When Carson was playing, Carson was not playing well, clearly. It affected Zach Ertz. But then he got hurt. I never thought he was the same coming back. But I don't think he's done, right? I don't think he should be one of the highest paid tight ends anymore. But it's not like he's 35 years old. I still believe there's good football left in Zach Ertz. And I think if everyone kind of cools down, calms their head, cooler heads prevail type of thing, I think there's a path where Zach Ertz could come back to the Eagles for one more year, play well, help Jalen Hurts, and then, go into free agency next year and see what the league thinks of him. So I'd be fine. I'd be fine with the idea of Ertz coming back. Allen said, if you feel Hurts is the man and you aren't building offensive talent up around him, you are wasting a year of his rookie deal. Yes and no. I don't think you have to, I don't want to waste a year of Jalen Hurts' rookie deal. The most valuable things in the NFL are good young quarterbacks on rookie deals. But the Eagles have, I think, gone out of whack in recent years where they invest so much on offense to the detriment of the team. You know what Jalen Hurts needs? Help around him. Doesn't mean he needs a wide receiver. He needs help around him. You know what would help Jalen Hurts? A good corner on his defense and get the ball back from him in opponent territory. Just as important as having a good offense around Jalen Hurts is having good players on the other side of the football to get him the ball. You go back to 2017, the Eagles, a lot of short fields, a lot of really good defensive stops, 4th in the NFL in points per game allowed. That helped Carson Wentz. Short fields. The offense was helped out by an opportunistic defense that got a lot of sacks, strip sacks, and they made plays. Right? And they held the opponent down from scoring most of the time, 4th in the NFL in points per game allowed. It made it easier. Carson Wentz that year, other than the Rams game where he got hurt, unfortunately, they didn't have many games where he had to score 35 to win. It was more like if the Eagles put up in the 20s, they were going to win because their defense did a good job. So I think a good roster around Jalen Hurts helps him. It doesn't mean you need to draft Smith or Waddle in the first round. I'd reject that theory. Denny said, let's talk about the linebacker position. They have a serious need for that. They do. I don't think the linebacker position is very strong, but I also don't think it's super weak. Alex Singleton played well last year. He was one of the bright spots on that defense. And they did sign Eric Wilson. It went under the radar, but 26 years old, tackle machine, can play pass coverage from the Vikings. And, he was an undrafted player that got his start under Jonathan Gannon, who was there at that point as an assistant with Mike Zimmer. Gannon then became the Colts defensive coordinator and is now here with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I think there is, or Colts defensive backs coach, there is something to that connection there. And in the NFL now, you've only played 2 linebackers. And I'd be fine with Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton out there. I'm not going to reject a linebacker, but look, we know this. It's been since 1979 since the Eagles have actually drafted a linebacker in the first round. I don't expect it this year. I wouldn't. I don't think you either. Should. Todd said, what is the likelihood of the rumors that were out there that the Eagles may trade Miles Sanders? I didn't actually hear any of those rumors that they would trade Miles Sanders. I would. I think Sanders is the most overrated player on the team. Good player, good running back. He's not special. Miles Sanders is not a special running back that I'm going to do jumping jacks over. Good player, but fumbling issues are there. And go look at his yards per carry, third quarter, fourth quarter, especially fourth quarter. Might be part of the reason why the Eagles didn't give him the football as much late in games. He wears down. I like Miles Sanders. I think we've gone overboard on how good he is. In fact, if the Eagles actually want to have a big-time running game, which I think they can with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. He ran for almost 70 yards a game last year. Jalen Hurts has some Lamar Jackson kind of game to him where he's going to run a lot. He's going to use his legs as a weapon. But what do the Ravens do? They put running backs around Lamar Jackson for the RPOs. And they've got a stable of running backs, fresh legs in there all the time to run with Lamar. The Eagles should think about that. I would not be shocked, surprised, or upset if they take a running back on day 2, second round or third round. Because if you're going to run the football, you need better backs. And Miles Sanders, while he's good, is he the kind of guy you really think you can give the ball to 20-plus times a game? I don't look at him that way. I don't think he's physically built that way. He's been banged up. He's fumbled. So get a compliment for him. Get another guy where you can give the ball to Miles 14 or 15 times. And then if there's another back there that can run it 8 or 10 times, That's building a running game. Then you have Jalen Hurts who could run it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and boom, you wake up one day and it's mid-September and the Eagles won a game by grinding it out and running it 30 times because they had all these backs next to Jalen Hurts. I think this town would be excited. So they're not going to trade Miles Sanders. I'd be surprised if they did. But I also think they should put another running back in the rotation because I just don't view Miles the way I view some number one great backs in the NFL where, like, that's his backfield. I don't think that's the way it is with Miles Sanders. Kevin said, don't you think the Zach Ertz situation is similar to what they had with Carson Wentz? What is holding Ertz back? Yeah, I mean, I think in a sense it is. There's some bad blood there. I don't think it's going to work out long term. And in fact, if I had a guess right now, I would say on draft night, the Eagles would trade Zach Ertz. But like I don't think they have to. Like, if they can't find a good offer, I am fine keeping him. Todd said draft Najee Harris. He's got an amazing skill set, maybe the next generational player. But he's a first-round pick. I mean, I think Harris is going to go to the Steelers maybe in the bottom of the first round. Michael Carter, North Carolina. That's the name for you. Day 2, maybe day 3, but day 2 pick. I like him a lot. David said, how about this? How about this? This is a nice comment. I always had a strong dislike for you, Joe, but how you always kill Wentz in the radio, but I'm man enough to admit I was wrong, and you were right. I apologize. First of all, it's just sports talk, right? We're just giving opinions and having fun. I just thought Carson Wentz was overrated. Tough year for him. Hope he does well in Indianapolis, but I appreciate you listening and listen. Right, wrong, we're all right, we're all wrong sometimes, but we just give our opinions, and I appreciate you sticking through and being part of the show with me. The linebacker the Birds picked up from the Vikings. If he's so great, why he signed such a cheap deal with Philadelphia? He didn't get a big deal with another team. It's linebacker. A lot of teams in the NFL kind of think like the Eagles in terms of not valuing the linebacker position significantly. I agree that it was, why wasn't he signed day one? Why didn't anyone give him a real deal? Happens sometimes with linebackers, though. When the Eagles signed Nigel Bradham, it wasn't like, oh, wow, this great linebacker. But he played well here, and the Eagles won a Super Bowl with Nigel Bradham. I'm hoping, and we'll see, but I'm hoping the linebacker they got from Minnesota can be something similar to that, where it's like we wake up one day next year, it's like, man, he's a good player. Why did the rest of the league kind of pass on him? And look, y'all, it's the Joker from Full Metal Jacket. Is that the hair thing? Is that my thing, Dave? Yes, I shave my head. I'm not from Full Metal Jacket. I'm just some guy on the radio that talks about football. But I get that a lot. Yes, I actually shaved it last night, so I might get that a lot tonight. Listen, this was fun. We'll do this again coming up tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, 6:30. If you're on Facebook, you're just scrolling through. I'll be here again. Leave comments, leave questions. I'm going to do it again. My big thought for tonight, though, is Eagles, rumors they could trade down from 12. I would be all for it. If they don't get one of the 3, 4, or 5 guys they want at 12, if they're all off the board, don't force it. Go down to 15 or so. If the Patriots come up, boom. Take a defensive player or offensive lineman there in the middle of the first round, collect another pick, and use it to move around. Thank you guys for watching. We'll do more draft talk tomorrow night. This has been the Draft Show with Joe Giglio right here on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Facebook